Hi, and welcome to Real Trail Talk. I am Donovan D'Souza from The Long Ways Better.
And I'm Mark Pybus from The Life of Pi. Welcome to episode 30. We have another Bibbulmun Track podcast coming up for you. And Donovan, where are we in the series so far?
Yeah, so we've made it quite a fair way through. We've made it past the halfway point. And now we are doing the Pemberton to Northcliffe section.
And when we first started doing the podcast, I really expected we would fly through the Bibbulmun podcasts and just be like, what do we do in between?
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
It's over a year now, and we are just getting to Pemberton to Northcliffe. So we've done, by the end of this, about 650 Ks maybe?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So there's still a fair chunk to go, and we'll get to those over the summer. But
yeah, I think ahead of us is the worst of times and the best of times, but we'll get onto that at some other stage.
We'll reach Angry Dawn, in sometime in 2019.
Yes.
But for now, it is one of the lovelier sections of the track.
Definitely. Yeah,
and
definitely.
Also one of the shortest too, when you do town-to-town sections.
So I think I did this section in March 2016, and we did it over the Easter weekend, and I think that it's probably the perfect town-to-town section to do over that period, because it's 3 days, you have 4 days off. It's perfect for you to be able to fit that in there and get between the two. And especially I think if you're not an experienced multi-day hiker, it's a really good way of doing it without using your annual leave.
And also pretty easy to get transport between the two towns too, which is what you guys did on your trip.
Yeah, so we did it in the reverse order, starting at Northcliffe, and we did that because of the timing of the bus, so that we could get a bus back to Northcliffe from Pemberton.
Very smart way of doing it.
And you did yours very recently.
Yeah, so mine was done August this year, and luckily Dad was quite keen to go for a drive, so I dropped my car in Northcliffe and let the ladies know at the visitor centre that it was staying there, which it was safe for the 3 days. And then Dad drove me back to Pemberton for the start. So I have this thing about my sectional end-to-end, I'm going to do it all north to south.
Yeah, I think it's actually nicer if you can. I probably didn't think about that when I started. I just went, what is convenient? And so, as a result, I have a slightly messy order on the blog where things I have to put in brackets. This is the north to south section. And even as we talk about this, it will be slightly wrong in my brain.
Yeah. So we'll have a different perspective of this section, quite literally. Starting in Pemberton, one of the nicer track towns, and a fairly open and largish town for the area. I think it's, when you think of Karri Forest, you think Pemberton as the main town. Yeah,
definitely. I think, the area is just surrounded by these trees, and, if you're on the main street, you just see them everywhere, so definitely.
There is a bit of town walking to get through, and it's it's not a drag. I mean, you would have finished with this, so maybe it would have been a bit more of a drag for you, but I mean, it's pleasant to walk past the old buildings and kind of see a little bit of country farm life within still a town setting.
Yeah, I mean, there's things like there's the old cinema that's there, and it's okay. Like, it's not exciting, but there are worse things. I think the other way into town is nicer because you go past the really old buildings, but it's all right. It's not like Collie.
No. And getting to, because if you know the area, you know what's coming up almost straight away, and that's the Gloucester National Park. So it's an easy thing to swallow, knowing you're going to get basically thrust into the Karri Forest for the next 3 days.
Yeah. And I mean, the Gloucester tree's awesome. I think it's, everyone from overseas who comes to see it, they just question how on earth this thing has survived, with the exceptionally risk-averse nature to all sorts of public things like this. And yet, no one has died, because I think probably you just go and hold on for your dear life when you climb it.
There's no safety net, like you're responsible for your own actions.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you've climbed it. What was the experience like?
Yeah, I love it. I've done it 3 or 4 times now, I think. It's when I did it on the day that I did it as part of the bib, it was a perfectly sunny day, so it was really good. I've done the bicentennial tree when it was really windy, and that was horrifying. Because the tree sways.
Yeah.
Mainly because it's so heavy up there, because they put a cage at the top, whereas on top of the Gloucester tree, it's a much lighter structure. So I think as long as you don't do it on a high wind day, which you probably shouldn't be doing it anyway, it's actually not that bad. Have you?
No, so I mean, I'm not that great with heights anyway. I'm actually not sure how it'd go on a sunny day, but like the times that I visited this area, when I did the Gloucester route, it was just after like a massive storm, so there was debris everywhere. It was wet and slippery, and then coming through on the Bibbulmun Track, it was like raining. It had, bucketed down 30-40 millimeters and had a storm as well. So yeah, maybe in dry weather I might one day attempt it, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's sensible. I think it's not worth doing if it's going to be dangerous.
And then moving on from there, it is actually this is one of the nicest parts.
Oh, yeah.
And a good introduction to basically days 1 and 2 in the Karri Forest.
I should say that there's a photo of me standing on the sign outside the Gloucester tree.
I was going to ask you about that, yeah.
Yeah, so in May 1999, at that point, I saw the Bibbulmun Track sign underneath the Gloucester tree, and I said, I'm going to do this one day. So this area,
Don moment.
Yeah, little Donny. It was one of those things that, it obviously defined my life in a sense from that point on, because I said, this is something I will do. And it took me, a very long time to do it.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't 18 years later. It was only 18 years later that I actually completed the bib. But it was the thing that set it in motion. So this particular area has a special place for me.
Yeah. No, because I remember thinking like there's a similar sign not too far on down there. And I was like, as I walked past, I was like, is this the Little Don moment? I was like, no, I'm sure it was back near the Gloucester tree. And I was just picturing, Little Don just standing on the side. Being like, I'm going to do this one day. I'll show you all. But yeah, the Karri Forest around here is epic, and it is. It's not exposed, but you get to see the size of the Karris, and a lot of them have the moss at the bottom, and it's really kind of wet undergrowth, and it's quite photogenic, this area.
Definitely, that photo of the moss tree is the one that I use as my comparison with Tassie, because the trees there, it looks almost identical inside if you like look at it. Like to some parts of like Mount Field. Yeah. It's just so beautiful down there, and that's part of the Gloucester route, which you've done as well. We both love.
Yeah. Which sadly, this time coming through on the Bibbulmun, as you get to the road, the other side where it's got the bridge and it looks really cool, that had all been burnt out.
No.
And I was like, no. I was looking forward to seeing that again, and I'm not sure how long it'll take to recover, but I'm guessing it'll be 5 to 10 years before that's anywhere near as beautiful as it was. But oh well.
Okay.
These things happen in WA. But moving on, I mean, you then walk down the road for a little bit to cross the bridge, which is more of a convenience thing than we're just going to put you on a road. Yeah. And then you're basically onto the railway formations.
Yeah, which is kind of, sometimes railway formations can be really boring, but I actually quite like this one. I think it's quite nice. It's it's a tunnel, but it's a nice tunnel.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I know there's a few people in the Facebook groups, don't like the Karri Forest because of these tunnels, but I love them. They just have this, I don't know how to describe it, finality to them. Like this is where I'm walking, and it kind of all draws into a point. And as a photographer, it's nice to have your eyes being led somewhere. Whereas some of the railway formations in the Jarrah Forest, you're kind of just looking around going, what's here? Yeah, for sure. And it's a lovely walk that they have there. Because I think it is its own trail, isn't it? That links up to the Cascades. Yeah, so this is the Pemberton to Cascades trail that they advertise that you can do.
Yeah, I think it existed before the bib, but it was sort of co-opted by the bib.
Okay.
Because I think the signage at the junction looks a bit older. When you reach the Cascades, it has the sign that says Bibbulmun Cascades.
Well, there's like 5 or 6 of those signs along there, and I'm just like, where are these Cascades? Like, I knew where they were because I'd visited them before. I was like, if you're an end-to-ender, and you're like, oh, these cascades, they must be really, really good because they keep like signposting them.
Yeah. I think it's one of the better side trips from the Bib. It's a bit longer than a lot of the other side trips. It's like a few Ks, like 1 or 2 Ks.
No, it's
not even
directly pretty much there. Like you go down the hill, cross the road, and then like there's the link trail. But doing the cascades, I went over the bridge anyway and sort of under the tramway bridge.
Yeah.
So I would have done that anyway. But it's an enjoyable side trip.
Yeah.
And well worth doing. Like if you're not sure or you think you've got sore feet or anything, just do it. Just drop your pack and go off and do it.
Yeah. It's one of the few side trips that's actually properly signposted clearly, because we've talked about this before with things like Rocky Pool, some of the other ones, like even Mount Randall. There's no sign.
Yeah.
This is one.
Not Mount Halliwell. Boonering Hill.
Yeah.
You would never know.
And that's even counted as part of the Bib.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is one of those things where at least they've signed it properly, and it's actually probably a good example of how they should be dealing with these side trips, I think.
I mean, when you visited, it probably wouldn't have been flowing as much as what I did. Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't too bad, because I think we had a relatively rainy week before, and Lefroy Brook was flowing, but when you went, it would have been amazing.
I was lucky because we'd had like 30 millimeters of rain the night before, so it was actually proper cascades. And I visited last year, late in the year, and it was still, had a good flow then, but nothing compared to this. And it just, it made you just like, wow.
Yeah.
And even just walking around, because it's got like where the car park and you wander down, they've got that like leaf bridge. Before that it's like a normal river, but my last trip was like flooded, and like you could see just the power of all the water gushing down.
Yeah.
But I have not seen one of I think they're lampreys.
Yeah, they are lampreys there, but I've never seen them
I've
either.
been there at the right time according to the information boards, but I've never seen them. So I wonder if they still get up that high or further down the river.
Yeah, I guess you have to if you stand in the water long enough, they might bite you.
Yeah. So for those playing at home, the lampreys are like eel-like creatures, and they've got a ring of teeth that kind of clamp onto like the moss or whatever, and then they feed. So they come in from the ocean and then go upriver, and then they die off, and all their young go back out into the ocean. I can't remember.
Something like that, yeah.
But that'd be pretty cool to see in real life. But alas, not to be.
So then back onto the track, it's a lot of forest walking. I think you go past like the railway line and a few other things.
Yeah, it's very up and down as well. Like you never really, apart from the railway formation, you're not really walking on much flat today.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's beautiful country. It's just you kind of wonder why you're going up a hill and then you're going down a hill, and probably reminiscent of the day you don't really like between Donnelly River and Pemberton. Which day? The one that you said was unnecessarily hilly, and then you kept turning right and then turning right.
Oh, that day, yeah. Because I actually love the Donnelly River roller coaster day, which is the most of that particular section.
I think it's the day after.
But the day after, yes. The one to Bibbulmun it seems unnecessary. I think on that particular day, because Alyssa and I were walking from the hut to town, and we had a bus to catch. So we just powered. We didn't think too much about the fact that it was, as up and down as it was. But one of the things I remember most about that section was I felt that because obviously they had a few trees that had fallen over the track and they cut them open, but they left them as like stools in a lot of ways. So I found this particular section had a lot of seating along the way, and it seemed very thoughtful. I think, there's a certain Bibbulmun Track hiker who wrote about not being enough seats on the track, and he would love this section.
Yeah, certainly it is nice, especially like around those milestones of like 3 to 5 Ks. If you've got, somewhere to sit while you have a bit of a drink or have lunch or whatever, it's nice to have those. And they're not short of fallen trees in these areas.
Yep.
Even the ones that aren't on the track still provide a nice feature.
Yeah,
and a good place to spot the fungi and the mosses, and just enjoy the beauty of it. There's just so many shades of green within this section. Yeah, this was the day where I saw the giant ferns. Did you spot them?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I saw giant ferns on this day.
And having not been to Tassie at that stage, I was like, this feels like Tassie. And then having now gone to Tassie, I'm like, yes, that was Tassie.
Definitely.
Just on a very small scale.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's just little... Every now and then, I love in this section, because it's so lush, that you just get those little flashes of like, oh, this was all once the same a long time ago.
And just like it just grows everywhere, like the moss. Like you just have a fallen tree or a branch or something, and then it just could be like fluorescent green with all the moss. So like, there's lots to look at, and like one thing I like saying is it's the devil's in the detail, and there's just so much detail in the Karri forest.
Yeah, I think it's well known that I find the Jarrah forest to be frustratingly boring.
Yes.
And even though Karri forest has a certain sameness about it, I'm not bored. Because I feel like there's a lot of things to be interested in, and of course, you know, Jarrah, you could say that there's a lot of there's more wildflowers in the springtime, but that's a very specific time of year that it's better in some sense. So, whereas I think the Karri forest is always nice, even in summer when it's dry, it still kind of looks nice.
Yeah, I think there's also an element of chaos about the Karri forest, whereas like it grows so quickly and everything is so much larger and there's so many more species that anything could happen. And like a fallen tree in one spot then opens up the forest, and you could get a million different things happen. Whereas a lot of the Jarrah forest, because it does get burnt quite a lot, it becomes a bit uniform.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah.
And yeah, like you get less rainfall, therefore it doesn't grow as quickly, or there's not as much variety to grow. And I know there's just something about the Karri forest that you can walk through a section and then 10 meters later turn a corner and just be completely different, whereas you rarely get that in the Jarrah forest. Kind of know what you're getting a couple 100 meters ahead of where you are.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, so an interesting aspect of this is the farmland that you see along it, because it's not just the Karri forest. You come through some areas that are sort of open up. On the day that we went, it was kind of interesting because it was like there were storm clouds rolling across the fields, so that kind of added a bit of drama. And I know that you're very much you like the farmland.
Yeah, like as much as I don't like the land clearing that's come with farming, like you get the sense that farm's been there for like hundreds of years, or at least 100 years. Like it gets you out of the Karri forest because like it's very heavy walking, and then to all of a sudden be exposed to, wow, here's like an open field and here's some views. And it also draws you into the scale of the Karri forest, because you're up on the hill on this farmland and you can see that farm is surrounded by Karri trees, and you get the sense of how big they are, and you can see the ones poking out of the canopy, and just get that grand scale that is Karri. I think I also had storm clouds rolling in as well on my day.
Must be a perpetual thing in that area. Yep. Just to add the drama. Yep.
And then not long after that, you actually get to see the Warren River for the first time, which is quite a delight. I mean, it's not... When I think of the Warren River, I think of this really wide kind of flowing rapids, giant Karri trees on it, but the introduction's kind of a bit smaller.
So you're thinking more like the Warren River Loop area.
Yeah. When I saw it on the map, I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. I'm looking forward to that. But it is obviously upstream a fair bit, so I'm not going to get that effect. But it does actually follow the Warren River closer than some of the other rivers on the track, which is nice.
I think it's not as close friends with the Warren as it is with the Donnelly, which it follows for such a long time. But I think it's, the Warren has a similarly beautiful character, sometimes a bit more rugged in some areas, like there's bits of rapids and stuff like that. So it's a beautiful river, and at least for the 2 days of this section, it follows it quite faithfully for a bit.
And there's a cool little access point just before we get to the campsite, where I think it's a 4-wheel drive crossing, and you must only be able to cross in summer, because when I was there it was going up on 2 meters, the depth chart at the edge of the river. Yeah, so I kind of like marveled at that. It's like, who would be crazy enough to try and cross this in winter? But it does give you like a good scale, and I just love the colors of the southern rivers that we have, just that deep tannin brown.
Yeah.
And I know it's a goal one day to kayak down or canoe down one of them for at least a few days.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I think that that's something that, we have a number of these rivers like the Warren or the Donnelly that are a bit of an untapped potential, that we don't have trails for them, and we don't have like places people can stay along the way. So yeah, I definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah. And then you've got that murderous hill up to Warren, which you probably would have gone down.
It was marvelous.
Yeah. A great start to the day.
Yep.
But I mean, it's only like 80 or 90 meters vertically.
Yeah. I mean, the other way, you still have to go up.
Yeah.
There's no way of avoiding it.
Yeah. If you want the Warren campsite views, you're going to have to work for a little bit. And it is a beautiful, beautiful campsite up on the hill.
I think it would be, I don't know, maybe top 10, probably top 10, I'd say. I haven't really, calculated this for a while. I have thought about it.
I think you should do a list. You have to.
I think I have mentally done it.
Not just the top 10, but like rank every single shelter.
Okay. Yep.
Until the very last one.
Yeah.
What would the last one be? The worst.
Probably something in the dwelling up forest area. I don't know. Or Collie. I don't know. Somewhere nearer to Collie, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's some terrible campsites and some good ones as well.
Not that I've actually passed through there, but just looking at the photos, maybe Brookton, just because it's so close to that highway and on a bit of a flat.
Yeah. I think Brookton would be near the bottom. I mean, Canning's quite ugly.
Yeah.
So, especially after the fires that went through.
Anyway, we digress. Warren is, one of the more beautiful ones. A lot smaller. There's not that many tent pads around, but you're not going to get super big crowds anyway.
But there is, well, you say that. I mean, okay, first of all, there is a lot of space around the front.
Yeah.
So if you did want to set up tents, you could, set up there. Now, the day that we were there, because it was the long weekend. So this is the only thing I'll say is if you're going to do the long weekend, the Easter long weekend, which is basically the start of the hiking season, you have to be prepared because it was really busy and people coming from both ends as well. So what we found was that it was just the perfect storm. Everyone from that, who came up with us from Northcliffe got there, and all the people from Pemberton got there as well. And so we had, I think, about 21 people in the hut.
Wow.
Yeah.
Actually staying in the hut?
Staying in the hut. And so
the capacity is only like 10 or 12, isn't it?
So at a stretch, so the upper bunks, because it's a deep south, so you can have 2 at the top on each side. Underneath, you could probably have 4 if they lie down, sort of face, like their feet facing the middle.
Oh, yeah.
And then you can have more in the middle. I mean, we had some people setting up their tent underneath inside the hut.
Yeah.
It was chaos. Too many people. And so Alyssa and I didn't bring our tent, but we knew that this was a risk. So we made sure that we left early. And we were the first people there, and we got the top bunk, top left, our preferred spot.
Yeah.
And so this is the thing, I think most of the time, except for if there's a burn, you can probably risk it and you may be okay without a tent. But you have to be prepared on these kind of days when it's crowded, because you might find that you don't have a tent and you don't have a place to stay. So you have to be prepared to get up early like we did and fight for that place by getting there before everyone.
But did you have your Cedar Summits ultralights at that point?
No, this was so I think we had Kathmandu mats that were not great.
The self-inflating ones.
Yeah, they're okay,
They're not as noisy.
They're not as noisy. We didn't have the Cedar Summits. I had a mosquito net that we brought. So a Cedar Summit mosquito net. This is before we bought the Big Agnes tents. And it was good. It worked well, but we were running a risk. And I think there were a lot of groups running the risk and also then being a bit blasé about what time they're going to rock up.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like if you don't carry a tent, you have to get up early and really leg it.
Yep.
But I did not have that problem because my theme continued for my sectional end to end, and I was on my own.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone was gonna brave the weather because I was staying here a Thursday night, and it was a wild Wednesday night, so no one was really gonna, unless they got an end to ender.
Yeah.
No one was gonna come.
And I think people in WA are a bit cowardly when it comes to rain. Like, as soon as it rains, they're immediately like, you can't go outside. So, like, when you do if you do hiking in winter, you could have the entire track to yourself almost the whole way and not run into another person sometimes.
Yeah. The only people you'll run into are the end to enders who like they're just accepting that they're probably going to get rained on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So moving on to day 2, it's another one where you follow the Warren River, but it's more apparent that the river's there for the first half of the day.
Yeah. And also, I think you've done the math on this, and this is more undulating than the Donley River roller coaster.
Yeah, so day 1 was actually, I think it was 705 meters when I calculated it, or the GPS calculated it for the total vertical distance you hiked over the day.
Right.
And it was a shorter day as well than the Donley roller coaster. So yeah, these areas are quite hilly. And today, or day 2, is actually over 600 meters. So I mean, it's nothing to sneeze at. It's just you don't really notice, and it doesn't really get talked about too much that these are the hilly days.
Yeah. I found this day quite taxing when I did it. Probably also it was quite early on in the history of the Long Ways Better blog. And this is probably our most substantial hike that we'd done in a long time. So it was just very up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. So and it starts with a very steep down from the hut.
Yeah, I mean, this was also one of my most challenging days on the track. I have a few theories on why that is, but I think it was just because it was raining and the rain jacket I had didn't really breathe that well, so I think I got a little dehydrated and kind of a bit hot under my my jacket. But yeah, as you say, the hills, you don't expect them to be this big, and you're always on one, so yeah, it just kind of takes it out of you without you noticing, or like you just think, oh, this is nothing.
Yeah.
But, the walk down from the campsite to one of the, I'm going to say it's the largest wooden railway bridge on the track still.
Now
After we lost Long Gully Bridge. But River Road Bridge is not quite as majestic, but it's still a cool feature to walk over.
Yeah, for sure. I think it adds a lot of character to this particular day, sort of like a highlight. And it's, for us, because it was near the end of the day, it was like, oh yes, the end is almost here.
Yeah.
So it has that sort of benefit to it.
And it is like it's not curved like Long Gully Bridge was, but it's got the, like, you can only walk in the center, and then they've got the kind of fenced off area, which they like doing in the Karri forest. It's I suppose it's to protect people from what may be dodgy wood and stepping through and falling off and everything. But yeah, I like that it kind of gives you a focus point as you're crossing.
So beyond that, I remember there were some other bridges along the way. So I remember that, one of the things I remember vividly from this section was there was like a bridge that was really high, and it felt high. Yeah, and it was like on one of the side gullies. Yeah. And it's just like amazing because it's so lush and like dense along the banks here.
Because you would have come from the other way, but I think I walked up a hill and there was some big carries there, and then you get the view because the river's to the left. Yep. And then you get the bridge and you're like, whoa. And I was trying to take all these photos, and yeah, it's quite a cool spot. And then you get the really low bridge, which is kind of more like boardwalk over this little side stream. Yeah. Which for me, even though we'd had all that rain, like there was nothing really to walk over. You could have just walked up to where the stream was, had a bridge there, and then gone over it then. But it's cool having all these little bridges and side trips, and I mean, especially in the Karri forest, because you put a wooden bridge there, it's going to get taken over with moss, and it all grows differently, and it kind of like becomes part of the forest.
And so basically this whole section is very close to the river. It sort of follows the river, and it just goes up and down the hills until Moon's Crossing, basically, isn't it? It's just consistently just following the...
Yeah. I mean, I was looking out for Moon's Crossing because on the map it's marked.
Yep.
And I still had, even after I'd passed it, I still had no idea what Moon's Crossing was.
Yeah, we didn't work it out, and it's like, that side road that goes that way leads to Moon's Crossing.
Okay.
But it's not at all clear.
On the map, it looks like you just walk next to it, and you should be on the river, and then you go up the hill. But I was just like, this is a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah.
And then all throughout that section before you go up the hill is you've got the trail markers that have the 8 on them. Like the figure 8, which is the Blackberry Loop, which I'd never heard of until I got to the sign saying, Blackberry Loop this way, don't follow the bib.
Yep.
It was just weird that they have all these trails that they then don't advertise.
Yeah, and I feel sometimes because they're sort of out of sight, out of mind, that they can sometimes just either be, just disappear from lack of maintenance, or worse, just be destroyed.
Yeah. Although I have a feeling this one, maybe someone or a group's just created it.
Right.
And then not had a trailhead and no official funding and marketing and all that. So it's kind of like a locals only trail that unless you're out there, you don't know it's there.
Yeah. They'd probably be like not happy that we mentioned it. Oh, that's my trail. You can't talk about it.
But I mean, there's a few like that, and we'll talk about that as you get into Northcliffe, that I didn't expect them to be there, and I might have to go back and have a bit of a closer look. But yeah, as we said, you leave the river, which there's a very brief dalliance with the Warren. I feel for such a large river, it could have followed it for a little bit longer. Yeah,
it doesn't become your friend the way that the Donnelly does. Like I think of all the rivers, I think a lot about the Donnelly. And, even though I don't love the Jarrah Forest, the Murray is dominating for several days. The Warren is not quite there, I think.
I mean, it'd be nice if it went into Warren National Park, but I don't think it would. You'd have to do a serious detour through some not very nice country to get back, but you never know.
I guess that's the problem, is that, especially because that area was logged quite a lot, it's probably just big holes where it would be like, this would be terrible to walk this way, even though the scenery is really nice at the other end.
And it was, I mean, it'd be nice to follow it for a little bit longer, because I think the forest leading up the hill's not the most exciting compared to what you've already walked through from Pemberton. I just kind of felt a bit like, let's get it over with kind of walking, which I don't like to say that it's that. I mean, it was still interesting, but like compared to what you've been through, and I was looking forward to like proper Karri forest the whole way, and this was kind of mixed Jarrah, Marri, Karri every now and then.
Yeah, and then from there, it's like I remember there's a lot of road crossings. Like the track just it's not bad. I mean, I actually remember, even though it was March, that there were a lot of fungi out when we walked, and I'm sure when you did it, it must have been even better than when we were there.
Yeah, I remember like no more than usual, but there was certainly a lot out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is where I saw my graffiti that really made me annoyed.
Oh, yeah.
Which I talked about on the blog. It was, I think it was a group of kids, and they were doing some walk for cancer and raising money and everything. But their support crew had basically graffitied these Karri trees with the like Go James and Go. It was like the initials of their group or the charity they were doing. I was just like, this is completely unnecessary, and you have no idea what you're doing, because you've just ruined this tree for quite a while, because it's not going to shed. It wasn't Karri.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it was Karri, then that's all right.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
And then someone mentioned later that they'd done it at Schaefer campsite as well. And I was just like, no. Like, sure, they're doing a good thing, but what you're doing is just worse. And it just made my blood boil. I was walking through, and I was already kind of feeling a bit weary as well. But yeah, it was just grr.
Yeah.
But then you reach more farmland, and that made me kind of a little bit happier.
Yep.
I think I just sat down on the edge just watching the cows, and it was like a light drizzle too, so I took my jacket off and cooled down for a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like almost a carbon copy of day one's farm as well. Like the side you walk on, you're on a hill, how it's surrounded by the Karri forest. It's kind of, I keep getting the two mixed up when I think about them now.
Right. Yeah, I remember, because that's actually leading up to Schaefer, isn't it? Where you get the farmland sort of.
Yeah, it's like really, really close to Schaefer.
Yeah. Which is another interesting hut.
Yeah. Like I'd heard, obviously, this was the hut that you can go swimming at. So it's like, it didn't, like, cause I deliberately get amnesia before I go on these trips. I don't read your blogs and I try and forget what was on there so I can kind of experience it brand new. But as soon as it became a little bit sandier and then I got like a glimpse of water, I was like, oh, this is the dam.
Yeah.
You can swim here if you want. Which you guys did?
Yeah, we did, because it was March, so it was perfect. You know, it was quite hot. And, you know, it's a novelty, because, yes, okay, so between Pemberton and Bailing Up, a lot of the campsites have some kind of water hole nearby. But this is one that's quite a large dam. It's actually got, you know, like, it's fenced off, like it's, you know, it's got like the buoys and the rope.
Yeah.
So that it's all sort of sectioned off as this is where you can swim, which is really unusual. You know, it's not something you see every day. And I think this was the first time I'd been to a campsite that had that feature. So it was kind of exciting, and there was a novelty to it.
Yeah. What was the water like?
Cold. Yeah. it's the Southwest.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
I could make a little Donny joke here.
Yeah, it was cold, but it was lovely, because it was quite a warm day. It was March, and you know, it is something that's really nice, is be able to like have a refreshing dip after a hot day.
Yeah. Yeah, I certainly read all the comments in the book. I think I got like 20 millimeters of rain that day, so I wasn't exactly short of having a wet experience.
Yep.
So yeah, I didn't partake on there, but it does sound lovely. Like if you said you've had a hard day, more coming north to south, because I mean Northcliffe to Schaefer's not a super long day.
Not strenuous. No.
But it is quite open, and you know, if you're doing it in the heat, then you're going to get sweaty and want to swim. So yeah, by all means, go in and have a dip.
Yeah. And I like the mixed forest that's around Schaefer. Sort of a lot of black butts and Karri mixed in together. So it's a bit of a varied scenery.
Yeah,
spot.
and you like from where you sit in the hut, it is a nice view out towards the dam.
Yeah.
I think watching sunset there is quite nice. Because a lot of the kind of really nice huts where you've got something nearby don't always translate to when you're in the hut. But
That's
I think
true.
Schaefer does that quite well.
Especially like the coastal ones are often not good because they face away from the wind. So you're just facing not great scenery.
Yeah.
Even though maybe the place you're at is amazing.
Yeah. And I woke up to a lovely sunrise there.
Yeah.
It was beautiful just to be able to poke your head out and, you know, have pinks and blues and oranges. It was beautiful.
Yeah. So I think Schaefer to Northcliffe is probably the most compromised of the days. I don't find it terrible, but it's not a day that you would say, oh, this is one of the best days of the track.
I guess it's kind of more like a transition day. Like you're getting away from the Karri forest a bit more, kind of going into what will turn into the Pinjarra Plains and Angry Don's worst section of the track.
The section that I refer to as the nadir of the Bibbulmun Track, because there's just so many things wrong with it. But this day, I feel like I look at it and I go, okay, so you needed to get from here to here, and there's probably not a lot of options. You know, like I think that they don't really have anywhere else to put the track.
I didn't actually mind it. It was just there was a lot of change on the track. Like you started out in the mixed forest, and then you came across some blue gum plantations, and then you kind of, there's a farm off on one side, and then there's a road that you cross, and some paper bark, swampy land, and it was just kind of all very hodgepodge.
Yeah.
You didn't really settle into a rhythm of the same landscape.
I remember a lot of thin trees near the swampy areas, like very kind of stunted trees that they're okay, but especially the last 2 days have been magnificent, Karri, and you're just in like, it's all right, forest. It's a bit of a step down.
Yeah, and I'd gone through just after a prescribed burn as well,
Oh.
so that made me even angrier.
God.
Because what annoyed me was not that they'd done the burn, but like that section of the track that like they targeted, because you got to an open area and you could see 30, 40 meters away. It was green and lovely, and you just know, well, they've just walked down the track and just burnt because it's a track.
Yeah.
And it's just that visitor experience, which we've talked about quite a lot, mainly online, and kind of that's the crutch of the argument, or most of the argument is it's a visitor experience. And if you're going to burn just the track, why even burn?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's something that I think we talked about more closer to Perth, is that I did some off-track walking near Monadnocks, and it was all pristine looking, and then as soon as we got to the track, it was horrible. And what does that say to visitors? Like it doesn't present our best face forward.
No. And after a while, you've got to wonder, because a lot of the people you talk to that are visiting from interstate or internationally, they're always like, oh, that's Aussie bush and it'll regrow and everything. It's like, well, this is not bushfires that have happened. These are burns that have deliberately happened.
Yeah.
And they're going to continue to happen every 5 years because someone says that they have to.
Yeah.
And it's just like, once you tell them that, they're like, oh, you mean it doesn't have to be that way? It's just kind of like a light bulb moment. And I mean, there's been quite a few people recently, I know we're getting off topic a little bit, just talking about how many diversions they've had to go through this year.
Yeah.
It's getting ridiculous.
I think that, someone had 5, and some of it was through, leading through the Pemberton, Northcliffe area. And I think that that's too many. I think it's understandable that maybe there might be 1 or 2, but 5 is, I think we need to think about these things as well, in terms of, as you say, the visitor experience, so that maybe if you think about the rolling time that people are going to be leaving, and maybe, I'm sure there's a study of like, okay, some more people leave around this time, and you can kind of time your burns to not be at the same time as people are walking through. Because I think at the moment they have I don't give a damn attitude.
Well, their notices say we're going to be burning summer, spring, autumn, 2018 to 2019.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that does not tell me anything. It means that, like, that's a 9-month period that you say you're going to burn. When am I supposed to know you're going to burn?
Yeah.
And a lot of people commented on that, and I was just like, it's a little bit embarrassing that you're trying to present the best self of WA, and all you keep hearing is burns and diversions and blackened areas. But anyway,
back to the track.
So
after leaving the sort of swampy area, you get into more farmland.
Yeah. And this was like, it's extended farmland as well.
Yep.
Which I loved a lot, even though the 4x4 track that I was on, or that you have to take, it was like my version of the Pinjarra Plains, which I didn't get to experience this year, but I will next year. Hopefully not in knee-deep water, but it was knee-deep at like a few points.
Oh, really?
And
wow.
There's just no way to escape it because it's fenced off either side. Yeah. But I mean, it already had wet feet for 2 days, so I thought, what's another few kilometres?
Did they have a section of fence with like just dead fox pelts on it?
I can't remember.
Because when we went through, there was just a section of like fox
warnings.
pelts. Yeah, it's just like,
this is
you better not come onto my property because this is what you get.
Yeah. Maybe it's the group of farmers from Fantastic Mr. Go around wearing it as a tie.
Bockus, Bunsen bean.
Yeah. No, but it's nice farmland. It wasn't really being used much when I was going by. If you're just using that as grazing land, I think it's a bit of a waste.
Yeah, I saw a lot of cows.
Yeah.
And I think that was about it.
But I mean, there's, like, when I passed, like, you could see the cows, but it just didn't seem like there were many of them. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a farmer, so I don't know how many cows per hectare or acre you can get, but it was very, very lush. I'm sure they could have had a few more on.
Yeah. The other thing that I remember from this section was a lot of blackberry bushes, which I know a lot of people picked them as they walked through, but I'm always very hesitant to pick blackberries because they are always sprayed. Well, not always, but very often sprayed because they are a weed.
They must have done a bit of cleanup because I don't remember seeing any.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So hopefully they've done a good job and removed them all there.
There was heaps when we went through, and because I remember there was like a group of girls behind us, and they'd been spending some time picking berries, and I said, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. They normally put signs up though when they spray. Well, they should anyway.
They should, and that's the worry. Is like, what if they don't, and then
Yeah.
you eat poison berries?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm fairly confident they're no longer there in the mass numbers that you say that they were. So
That's good.
yeah, it's good because blackberry is just one of those WA things that is just like, why would you do that in the first place? And now it's everywhere.
Yeah,
And it's so
they're
hard
not
to get rid of.
they're not amazing like raspberries. You know, the
Mm.
blackberries are sort of the black sheep of the berry family.
Mm.
You know, yes, combine blackberries with raspberries, you get boysenberries, and they're amazing.
Mm.
But there was no reason to have blackberries, really.
Yeah, and now they just choke everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and then you leave the farmland. I don't know why, but the farmland towards the end, which would have been the start for you, it kind of reminded me of more New South Wales, Victoria, like the Man from Snowy River kind of farm, where you've got the big trees, which would be the blue gums over there,
Hmm.
kind of big smooth bark trees. You've got the roads leading to all the little houses and farms and everything. It didn't feel like WA to me. It felt more like country Australia.
On the eastern states.
Yeah, on the
side.
eastern state side.
Yeah. That's an interesting thought. I hadn't really thought about it when we walked through, but then I hadn't really explored regional Victoria or New South Wales that heavily at the time.
Mm.
Whereas I think you'd been to a lot of places in Victoria before doing this,
Mm.
so that kind of maybe informed your
Maybe.
view of it. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point. Certainly, there's areas in northern New South Wales that I can picture trees that look very similar to Karri, that have that kind of look.
Mm.
So yeah.
That's this weird thing, because normally WA farms don't have, like, they have a row of trees,
Mm.
but they're not quite as old as these big Karris are. It's like they deliberately decided, we'd better have some tree cover, so
Yeah.
we'll save a few.
Like, these trees are actually nice.
Yeah.
I think we should leave them.
Yeah. Yeah, it was quite lovely. I enjoyed, because you do get, once you cross the Bibbulmun Road, I forget the name of it, but then you go onto the gravel 4x4 track, which is a access point to the farms. It was just pleasant walking. I had nice sunshine that day, and yeah, it was just enjoyable walking
Yep.
towards the Gardner River.
Yeah, all good. Nice sunny day.
Yeah. I thought I would see pack animal, because at the Schaefer hut I was looking through, and he'd been to the Schaefer hut on Christmas Day,
Right.
because he lives quite close, and he decided that was a good Christmas Day activity. I was like, what if this is the day? It wasn't. Yeah. And then, it's back into kind of mixed forest, bordering the Gardner River.
Yeah. And I quite like this section. I think it's nice. When we were there, it wasn't flowing very strongly because it was, March, but there was still some water there. And I imagined as we were walking, this would look really nice later in the year. So when you did it, it would have been nicer, or?
No, it was nice, but it wasn't like a raging river. It seemed a lot gentler than I was expecting.
Right.
I have no idea what I was expecting, but it was just like, for a river, I thought it'd be wider and more kind of like a Donnelly River. But even the bridge that you cross to get into the forest, it wasn't flowing at a great rate, and it looked like you could probably just walk through.
Right.
Like
then it sounds much like
knee
when
deep.
we went.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, that bridge is quite cool, and that's also where it meets up with the Mundabiddi.
Yes.
Kind of
you can see like bike tracks. I remember
Yeah.
when we went, because the river wasn't super deep, and so I think some cyclists thought they would just go straight through the water.
Yeah.
So you could see tire tracks going in the water.
Yeah. And I've yet to see a Mundabiddi cyclist, like, when the trails do meet.
Yeah.
I always wanted to see one and have like a meeting of the worlds.
I have twice. Once at Giants, near Valley of the Giants, and then another time, again in that section leading to there, because I think there's a lot more concurrent running in that section. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because in the you're quite right. Donnelly River to Pemberton section, there's like a day where they just keep crisscrossing.
Yeah.
And yet I've never seen anyone there.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always wondered. And because Donnelly River to Pemberton, like you see tyre marks on the Bibbulmun when it's not meant to be a mixed track. And I'm always worried you're going to come around a corner and then you just get like a tyre on the butt or like just confronted with cyclists. But yeah, never happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, moving on, you kind of get closer to town and you get was the spillway flowing when you went? There's kind of that like spooky old picnic area.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that. Yeah. I don't know if it was or not. I remember there was a prescribed burn through that area in the weeks before, so we were very lucky because a week earlier, if we had done it, there was actually a really long deviation where you'd have to have walked all the way up the road.
Yeah.
So thankfully that wasn't in place, but there was a lot of smouldering forest, I remember.
Your favourite.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. No, it is. I'm perplexed as to who uses that picnic area because it didn't look like it was. Like, normally picnic areas, like, it's swept and, like, there's a little area, but it was just leaf litter everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's a nice bit of the river because there's a concrete spillway, like, right there. You're not going to go for a swim or just sit there going, wow, like, nature.
I think Northcliffe suffers from that, though, because, like, later on, nearer to town, where there's that shelter and that area there, again, looks run down. It looks like no one uses it, which is a shame because... You know, the areas around there are quite nice. It's nicer than the spillway area that you're talking about.
But yeah, getting to that little hut kind of thing, like you see the road and you see the sign saying town centre that way, and you think it's not going to be very far, but it just kind of keeps going, and you're just winding. It feels like you're going away from town before you actually get there.
Yeah.
But I mean, the 4x4 tracks through there are quite nice. I forget what they call it. It's like a forest park.
Yeah. And it's got I think trails down to the river and things. There's a lot more I think to explore there than, as you say, like there's a lot there that you don't expect is there.
Yeah. I was quite enjoyed that area, even though it was kind of dragging on. But this is only a short day. It's only like 14 k's.
Yeah. So
it's not like your feet are aching after 20 k's and you just want to get to town.
Yeah. And I like the way it comes into town. You know, like when it joins the railway track. It's really cool.
Yeah. And again, like the hut that's got the information for all these trails, I was like, I've never seen these advertised online. Or like even a quick Google search. Like you type in Northcliffe hiking and you get the art understory and Mount Chuddlelup.
Yeah.
And that's it. Yeah. And then there's like 4 or 5 different trails that they've all named and like mapped out. I was just like, where has this been?
Yep.
So yeah, I'll have to go back and do them. I mean, they're not really long. I think the longest one's like 3 or 4 k's.
Yeah.
But it's still an interesting thing that they should be trying to promote because Northcliffe has so much potential as a track town, and yet it's really just Mundabiddi and Bibbulmun passing through.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a pretty massive visitor centre, and yet where are the visitors?
Yeah.
You know?
I think because you kind of have to pass through here to get to... I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. You pronounce it best.
Dontracastel.
Yes, at National Park. And a lot of the areas, like you have to use Northcliffe as a base to go out and come back. So I kind of get why the visitor centre is that large, but why not use it to its full potential?
Yeah, I mean, yes, you can send people off to Dontracastel, but... if you've got stuff nearby, then maybe they might stay in town. They might spend some money in town. Whereas at the moment, you just kind of go through, get the information, and go thanks, and then leave.
Yeah,
which is not great.
But I mean, yeah, I enjoy Northcliffe, and I remarked after I'd finished, I was like, if I was gonna be a recluse, Northcliffe would probably be one of the areas I would look to settle in.
Oh right, yeah.
And it's probably why pack animal lives there. Apart from great access to the track.
Yeah, it's a nice track town. I think it's not Pemberton.
No.
Or
Walpole.
Yeah, Walpole's pretty good.
Yeah.
Albany obviously is really good.
Denmark.
Yeah.
Very good.
But yeah, it's a nice town, and the bus service is really good from there to Pemberton. Like I really recommend that connection because it allows you to get from point A to point B very easily and complete that as a nice loop without having to do a car shuffle, which, obviously if you're driving all the way from Perth to do that as a car shuttle is a bit expensive.
Yeah, definitely. It's just, and I have to shout out to the visitor centre, because I was maybe 10 kilometres out of Northcliffe driving back to Bunbury, and I was just like, where's my camera? And so I stopped on the side of the road. I'm like fidgeting through all of my pack, like my car everywhere. I was just like, oh shit, I've like left it at the visitor centre. And I drove back, and to be honest, the lady knew it was there. It was just sitting on the table where you signed the book. I was like, but you couldn't have like put it behind the counter, because anyone could just walk in and be like, oh cool, camera, it's now mine. Not that I think people would do that in a visitor centre, but she was just like, had you have driven all the way back, I would have posted it to you. I was just like, it may have been stolen by then.
Yeah.
And I'd taken like almost 2,500 photos over the 3 days. I was like, I'd better not have lost that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So overall, this is I think a really nice 3-day section.
Yeah, it was one that I was really looking forward to doing, and I deliberately left to like kind of springtime, early spring, and I just come back from the Pilbara, so I kind of was longing for wet Karri forest.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what you get on this section.
Yeah, I think it's like a mini version of Donnelly River to Pemberton. It's a continuation of that almost. So while I walked bailing up to Pemberton in one hit, I think it would be a really nice, if you wanted to get like the full Karri experience, you could walk from Donnelly River to Northcliffe, except for the fact that the transport issues might exist. But it's a really good way of getting that full picture of Karri forest, that it's probably the peak Karri forest for the Bibbulmun.
Yeah. I mean, for a 3-day section, you're really only hiking in Karri forest for 2 days. Yeah. But, I mean, 14 Ks on that third day is not really, like, it's kind of a transition day anyway, so it's...
Yeah, and there's still Karri at the end, near the town.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very, very beautiful section, and if you're just looking for a long weekend or an Easter period, obviously be prepared, but it's that perfect length that you can quite easily do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep, so I think we both recommend and like this section.
Yes. Stay tuned for 2019 Angry Dawn.
Oh, yes. When we talk about Northcliffe to Walpole, the knives are out.
Yeah. And it's just getting a recent burn as well, where they shut off it was 30 kilometres of the track that they're putting through the 65 kilometre diversion. So it'd be interesting to talk to someone who did that diversion and get their thoughts about prescribed burn.
That's some cruel, some real cruel shit.
Yeah. I mean, Fernhook Falls isn't a bad campsite, but
having an extra day,
day.
Especially, I mean, you can later on double the last day into town, but if you were already planning to double and you only had enough food, that's really not great.
I hope they only burn like a tiny section and be like, weather's done, that's it, the window's closed, and then they just reopen it, because to burn that huge area, if they're going to burn that entire area, something is wrong with what they're doing.
Yep.
Anyway.
Anyway, we will really get into this section next year.
I'll be a moderator because I haven't hiked that yet. But
Yeah, you will have to really hold me back, I think, because I have a lot of very negative things to say about this section.
Maybe I just edit that podcast. Really a good compromise.
So, like, you can say, I did not like, and then I liked it.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for listening. I'm sure you've enjoyed the last couple of minutes of waffling.
Yep.
We'll be back in a couple of weeks with episode 31, which will be our hurrah for the year.
While we only have one more episode, if you do have any questions or suggestions for future pods, please contact us at realtrailtalk@gmail.com. And if you are enjoying the pod, then rate us on iTunes. Thank you for listening.